All right, good to go.
Hey everybody, so today's May 28th, Wednesday. It's 7 o'clock. Used to saying 6:30. We have quorum, so I'll open the Bridgewater Planning Board meeting. Item one, call to order. This meeting is being held remotely to the greatest extent possible. There's no in-person attendance of members of the public, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time. The meeting is being recorded, and within 48 hours, we'll post a link of the recording on the town's website and or the other town social media pages. I'm Patrick Driscoll, the chair. Is Mr. McDonald with us?
Yeah.
He is?
Yes, I think the only person you're missing is Eric.
Mr. Michael McDonald, the vice chair, Mr. Stephen Geller, Mr. Thomas Pratty, and Mr. Edward Haley, correct?
Yep.
Eric isn't out. Is Eric Costa with us? No.
No, Eric, no.
Okay. I'm having trouble with my screen here. Okay, so during the meeting, all the votes will be roll call. Following Bridgewater town staff participating remotely this evening, Mr. Robert Rulli, the Community Economic Development Director, Mr. Shane O'Brien, the Town Planner. I saw Mr. Solari with us this evening, the Building Commissioner. At this point, everybody's mic's muted. The board's mics will be unmuted through the whole meeting. As items appear on the agenda, the project's representatives' mics will be unmuted. If this is a public hearing, which we do not have this evening, and allows for public comment, we'll ask you to use the chat feature to ask your question by listing your name and your address and your question. The chair or the host will recognize questions in order. You can use the raise my hand feature in the participant menu and be unmuted when the chair or the host recognize you. Again, please state your name, address before asking the question. If you're on the phone, you can dial *9. So got item two. This is just a continuation of the planning board comment recommendation period. This is 70 to 86 Broad Street, map 21, lots 95 to 97, parcel B as noted. This is Churchill James Development Plan Review pursuant to section 9.8, Central Business District Development, Redevelopment, Standards Form-Based Code in the mixed-use frontage area. This is a proposal for three mixed-use dwellings with 77 units and 6,400 square feet of commercial space. So the way I want to run the meeting tonight is we did have the public meeting already. We did have public input. We did have proponent input. So really, this is just for the board tonight to consider. We threw out a lot of different things, asked a lot of questions, brought up a lot of points. I tried to gather those by watching part of the video again, and I did receive one email from another board member asking for some conditions to be incorporated. So I incorporated those. I kind of listed them all together in bullet format. I'll ask Shane to bring that up. We can talk about each one. If we want to leave it there, we want to edit it, we want to remove it, we want to add something else, and then we can vote on the project. So Shane, could you bring up that letter that I worked with you on, the unredlined version?
Sure thing.
So some of these comments are mine, some are yours, some are, stuff I got out of the meeting. So the first thing I'd say, Shane, even though I know I worked on this and sent it over to you, instead of having those bullets, just so if we have to refer to something, we can refer to like number one, two, maybe those should be numbered.
Sure.
And I did read it and I found a number of Scrivener's errors that, I'll point out a few of them tonight, but it's like an S got put next to an M or something like that. So we can address that later. So, I don't know. This was sent out. I don't know if the board wants to go through each one. We can decide if we want to leave it, trash it, modify it, etc. So I'll start out. How do you guys want to proceed? Do you want me to just go one by one?
Yes, one by one.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I have an edit on one of them, and like you said, Pat, a couple spelling errors or missed things.
Yeah, so this is all right. So I'll start with the first one. This is something I picked up. We asked for 75% frontage. Building B, I think, has 69%. So that should just be adjusted to meet the ordinance. Is there any question or comment on that one?
I got a little something on that one, Pat. I mean, as you know, I am a stickler for meeting the this percentage requirements for that kind of thing. But I mean, if we're just gonna like cut amenity space to do that, isn't that kind of just making worse for things worse for people just to meet the number check at that point?
Well, it's zoning, so zoning, I don't think it's something we can waive. Zoning, the amenity space is non-commercial space, so if you look in the form-based code, it requires 75%.
And that's a completely inflexible requirement on that one. Unlike where we could previously knock a few points.
I mean, that's the way I interpret it, so.
Mr. Rulli, do you have any opinion on that? On whether that's something we can?
I do. And Shane and I talked about it earlier. I mean, I think it's something that we'll discuss with the applicant and their architect.
Mr. Rulli, if I might chime in, sorry. We had inaccurate numbers on that. I think we actually do have the exact requirement. We can obviously present again. This is Tom Keane from Churchill James, but I think we meet the code perfectly, and we can get your revised plan to show that.
Okay, that's again, I don't want to back and forth on it. Just if you meet it, fine. If you don't meet it, you know what I mean?
We're fine with you leaving it as is on this recommendation.
All right, and just going forward, I just want to keep it to the board to try to get through these, but this is our recommendation to Mr. Rulli, to Mr. O'Brien, and Mr. Solari. So it's up to them to determine if we're right or wrong and to adopt the recommendation if they see fit, I guess, so.
Understood.
All right.
Good.
Anything else on item one?
Nope, I'm all set. That cleared it up.
Item two, this is something I put in. I just said consider. It should say on the ground floor. If they meet the requirement, we can't ask them to do it. But just looking at it, of those three buildings, there's only 2 residential units on the first floor of any building. This is just me looking at it saying, hey, if you can and if you're open to it, I just think it would make a much nicer commercial space if you had those 2 residential units gone. But again, like Mr. Keane said, if they meet the requirement, number one, we can't make them do it, but we can make them meet the requirement, or they have to meet the requirement. So I think the one clarification here should be, it should say, Shane, it should say removing the 2 residential units on the ground floor in building B, because it isn't clear where. But again, this is just a thought. This really doesn't pertain to any zoning or anything like that. It's just me looking at it. I brought it up at the last meeting. If you guys want to nix it, tell me to nix it. We'll delete it. You want to leave it there, we'll leave it there. Thoughts on that?
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that's it's a good suggestion, and I hope they look into it. I doubt it'll happen, but I hope they look into it.
Anyone else? We're going to leave it there. We're going to move on. What are we going to
Leave it
do?
there. Absolutely. I think it makes,
Yeah,
it
that's
makes the
good.
project overall look better. I think it's in their best interest.
Again, item 3, this was one of the comments I made in the meeting. They don't have to do it, I guess. I just think aesthetically, like I've seen some of these podium style buildings with like cedar slats or something, just so you're not looking at concrete piers and then cars between them.
Mhm.
I don't think it's required in the zoning. But it's just some sort of a, aesthetically pleasing treatment in those areas, if they could consider that. Again, it's not required. We can remove it if we want to.
Pat, do you want me to add a parking garage so it specifies?
Yeah, you should do it because the rest of it's commercial and amenity space. So yeah, that'd be
All
fine.
right, so I added that.
But this is something we discussed last meeting, correct?
Yes.
I brought up the point asking if they can do it, but it's, again, this is like number 2. It's, hey, it could make it more appealing aesthetically. Yeah, this is simply just a recommendation. So. Any comments on 3? Moving on to 4. So I don't know if we want a traffic study or not. It is required. I know there have been other traffic studies in the area. It is in the checklist. The checklist was developed by CD. It says that you should provide a traffic study unless it's not applicable. So if it's not applicable to this project, I don't know why we even have it in the checklist or where it'd be applicable downtown. So it's, again, board discussion on it.
I do have a question on this one. Mr. O'Brien, if I mean, I'll just use the example in front of us. So this project, if they were to conduct a traffic study, right, would they take into account any findings from the previous traffic study on, say, the old mill down the street? You know, the traffic that project would generate.
Yeah, it
That
would
all
t-
be-
it would typically when we deal with the traffic study, people ask about, you know, adjacent projects to you know, to the work done. You know, whether it be through an OCPC traffic study or previous traffic studies done for the site, as well as, you know, traffic studies we've done for Central Square, just so they can accumulate as much information and data as possible to kind of create a traffic study that's best, you know, suited for, you know, the area.
Gotcha. So in simple terms, if they had to do a traffic study, the big apartment complex across from Roche Brothers would be
Yeah, as
included.
well as just it would consider zoning as well. It would consider the train. It would consider other activity in the area. You know, it would. There's a lot of factors that could go into a traffic study. But I would say that, yeah, it would anything adjacent to it would be as part of the recommendation and part of that study.
Excellent. Thank you very much. In that case, I mean, I completely agree. A traffic study should be carried out.
So I guess Shane, and I've asked you this before, but to you, maybe you and Bob can answer it. So it's in the checklist. This project is going to create traffic. Why is it in the checklist then? And then if it's not applicable to this project, when would it be applicable?
I think it depends on, I mean, if we hadn't had a traffic study done for Perkins, if we hadn't had the Route 18 corridor study done, if we hadn't had a traffic analysis done recently for Central Square as part of those improvements, then I think, you know, it would be realistic to ask for one. When DCAM comes forward with the RFP for the corner of Hale and Plymouth, we might need to see something there because of the amount of pedestrian traffic still coming from the Spring Street lot and what impacts that's going to have. So, you know, I mean, we have the ability to waive it. That's in the ordinance, but, you know, I just think you know, my experience is you can make a traffic study, say whatever you want it to say.
Well, we have the ability to waive it if it's not applicable. So how is it not applicable, I guess is what I'm trying to understand.
I mean, I don't think we're going to get any new data that we haven't seen already. I mean, we've had, you know, in the last 24 months, and then even in a shorter period, 18 months, we've had 3 traffic studies done and traffic counts done in this area. So I don't know how much new information that we're going to get.
And I guess the problem I have with it is I don't know what any of those say. There's none of that's been presented. I mean, I have no idea. So
I mean, it's all public record. I mean, you saw the traffic study for Perkins. The Route 18 corridor study it's posted. We've had 2 public meetings regarding Central Square. Again, and you can make the recommendation. That's all it is a recommendation. We understand that. We appreciate, you know, your rationale for wanting it, and we'll evaluate whether or not we think it's, you know, necessary.
and I just don't understand how it's not, you know, it's in the checklist. It was put there for a reason by you guys when you developed that checklist. That was done through your office, and you know, it says waived if not applicable, and I think it's just staying there because I believe it's applicable. If you guys don't, you can demonstrate that, then that's fine. And I think what bothers me about it is 6 and 7 came from other members of the board in the last meeting, and then Shane added some stuff to 6. It's like now all of a sudden we're trying to figure out what traffic measures we should implement without data. So does anybody want to change 4 or leave it there? What do we want to do?
I want to leave it. Well, with all due respect to Mr. Rulli, those traffic studies, you know, are individual pieces, and this would have to take them into account, assuming I understand the process correctly, which is never a guarantee.
Right.
But-
The other thing I go back to is that this is a recommendation. I mean, it's going to be up to this, you know, the CED, whether they follow through with this or not.
What are your thoughts on it, though, Steve, as an architect and your
Well,
experience?
I think we should leave it. I mean, you're right. I mean, you know, if you do a traffic study, two two lots down, I mean, that it's not really gonna change much because we know what's gonna happen. The only thing that's gonna happen is that this piece of property is gonna add to the traffic study itself. It should add more traffic. But they will use all the data that was done in all previous traffic studies. You know, I'm not saying that they're gonna go out there and you're gonna see those, cords go across the street and they're gonna redo all the traffic studies. They're gonna take what's data is there. So he's right. I mean, it is a recommendation from the board that we should do one. But, just in this conversation, I can probably tell you that Bob and Shane are probably gonna say it's not gonna be, applicable because we have data.
Well, we can
and
cover,
then
but but I want to, but from a board perspective, we ask other projects for it. I want to be, we should ask for it, and if it gets ignored, it gets ignored. So that's
Absolutely.
I'm still unclear. I feel like there's a lot of ambiguity here with whether this is required or not and why we're discussing it if it is required. Where is it?
well, it says in the it's a checklist item.
Mm-hmm.
And it says in zoning, waivers may be granted if it's not applicable to a project. So
May subjective. So this is why we're talking about it, because it's not succinct and defined clearly. So there is ambiguity.
It may be waived if it's not applicable. So I think the first thing we need to do is determine whether it's applicable or not.
Yeah,
So-
the explanation is that everything on the checklist, they're either checked off and presented to the board and staff, and if it's not presented, there needs to be a waiver request from the applicant.
So, I mean, I think we clearly understand your position. I mean, you can keep it in, just like you can keep all of them in. We're not gonna debate the applicability.
All right. All right, let's go on. These are.
Sorry, Mr. Driscoll, if I can, just
go ahead.
one more thing on this. Mr. Rulli or Mr. Bryan, if I may ask, what would the benefit to the town be to waiving the traffic study?
I think that our position is we're not gonna learn anything new that we don't know already. So, I mean, I think, if we thought it was going to, completely exacerbate traffic issues, traffic is bad now. There are a number of things that are happening that this traffic study become useless. I mean, we're looking at relocating the platform. Keolis is looking to make improvements to the crossings of Broad Street and Plymouth Street. Typically, even though there are X number of apartments, residential usually are one in and one out. I mean, it's not like it's Roach Brothers where you have people coming in and out all day long. You have on-street parking in this area. So, again, we'll evaluate it if we think that, we have insufficient numbers, but I mean, we've seen traffic count numbers. We've got, a 104 study going on now by OCPC. So, I mean, I just, if I thought something was going to come out of it that was, going to change things.
Well, I guess.
Can I finish, please? I think one thing that might come out of it is, the next two that you have, and which we talked about last week, it should be right turn only, both going in and coming out. I mean, we agree with that. We agree with the fact that, there needs to be a crosswalk. Where that goes, I mean, I think that's a conversation with Public Works, Police, and Fire, but we agree that there should be one. I don't think there's any disagreement in terms of delineating the apron coming in. We're in agreement with,
And I just think those are things that a traffic study pick up. But the other thing that was brought up to me outside of the meeting was that in 1998, I guess a car was stuck on the tracks, or traffic backed up to the tracks. So I think what a traffic study may do is, again, it would look at that whole area and it may say, hey, put, stop lines or something on either side of the tracks,
that has nothing to do with this project. I mean, we don't have the ability to require that. I mean, again, I think that rather than kick this back and forth all night, you have it in there as a recommendation.
The point's been made, we'll leave it there, so. Okay, moving on, Shane, can you put that up? So 5 and 6 are kind of traffic things we talked about without a traffic study.
Well,
So,
can I go back to number 5? Because the thing that I was gonna add.
yeah, well, I'm on 5 now, Steve, so go ahead.
So the thing that I was thinking of adding to number 5 was, I know it's recommended for a right turn only, but we also recommended that down at the other development also. And their traffic guy came back and said that it's not really necessary. Now, I'm not a traffic engineer. I don't do a ton of traffic studies. So the only comment that I would have about the right turn only is I would say pending review of what the traffic study shows. You know, is it really going to affect traffic that bad if it's not a right turn only? I mean, let's face it, when it was Friendlies, it was not a right turn and left turn. It was both. It was in and out both ways. And even though Cumberland Farms says it's right turn only, we know we see people all the time taking left turns to get in and left turns to get out. So, I mean, that's a matter of a sign. I would rely on the professionals that do traffic studies for a living and have all the calculations in the data books to let me know if it's going to be effective or not.
Right.
All
I
right,
mean,
so I'm okay adding that then. Is anybody else? Well, per recommendation of traffic study.
Yeah. And in the traffic study review.
Right.
So whatever data they have, or if they're gonna actually carry out a traffic study.
Yeah, that sounds completely reasonable to me. It's just what if we don't get the traffic study? You know.
All right, traffic improvements, do you want to add the same language there? I mean, this is something that,
Well, no, I think we need a crosswalk because they're taking one away. You know, the plan that they showed us is an existing crosswalk there now that has an ADA ramp on both sides. It's gone. It's not on their plans, and I think there needs to be one there. And I asked Shane to make sure that they has that, you know, the new flashing lights and everything else on it. The only other thing that I would have is if they are removing that one, should we also have them remove the ADA ramp that is on across the street on that existing sidewalk?
I don't know.
Or you're just gonna leave an ADA ramp going into the street
Yeah, I
with
don't
nothing-
think,
with
I don't, from
nothing
a,
there?
yeah, I think from a safety perspective, I don't think that would be completely feasible to do because you're misdirecting someone who's visually impaired.
yeah, they've
There's a
got
crosswalk there,
they've
so.
got to meet the ADA requirements. I mean, they've got to line up.
No, I know that, but there's an existing crosswalk there now, and across the street is a handicap ramp that gets onto it. If that crosswalk is going away, they need to get rid of that handicap ramp that's across the street.
I would agree with that.
But isn't this what and maybe I'm wrong, but isn't this what a traffic engineer and would tell us as part of this design?
Not necessarily. I mean, he's really doing vehicular, you know, I mean, a traffic engineer would discuss where crosswalks are, but and the applicant has agreed to put it where we think is best. But I'm just saying, if it's not going back in the same spot, I think it's their responsibility. They're removing it to get rid of the handicap ramp on the other side of the street that would not allow someone to go into you know, out on Route 18.
Sure. Anything else on 6 from anybody else?
Do we want to maybe change remove to relocated? Would that make more sense in this context? I'm not too well read on the ADA, so I just want to make sure we're not accidentally.
Well, anywhere they put a new one in, and it's going to have to be ADA compliant on both sides. It's going to have the yellow dimples on it. You know, they're going to bring it all up to code. So, I just want to see them get rid of the one that's there.
Yeah, so they'd have to make one across the street as well, anyways.
Yes.
And you just want the previous one that would no longer work as intended.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Anything else on 6, anybody? 7, this, drainage test pits, this is something that came from the town engineer. I know we heard that they allegedly made a phone call. But we've always asked the test pits to be witnessed prior to approval. How the town handles it, they handle it, but the board requires them prior to approval. And, I just think it's smarter to do it that way, because if you mobilize to start construction and you do have discrepancy when they're out there doing it, you shut down construction. It's not like, you have to redesign where you could handle it now, make sure it's good to go, and when you mobilize, you're good to start work. So I kept 7 in there from the town engineer's report, but we can discuss it if anybody has a comment.
Pat, I'd like to potentially reword it this way, if the
Go ahead.
board sees fit. It is recommended that we condition drainage test pits be witnessed by the review engineer, and they need to be performed in the proposed infiltration areas prior to any approval. I think we need to make that a little stronger.
Well, I guess we can recommend that CED condition. I don't think, we're not approving the plan, so do you want to word it that way? It is recommended that CED commission?
Sure.
Condition, right?
Yep.
Because I guess, so Shane and Bob, how is this gonna work? Are you guys gonna issue a decision letter just like the planning board will from you guys?
Yes. I mean, I don't think, I think that the applicant has agreed that they would do another test, but I think the issue is the timing and, whether or not, town employees should have shown up and we should have just assumed that they're not responsible and we should have followed up, or they should have followed up to make sure they knew. I mean, they've had test pits done. I mean, and, they're not suggesting they're not going to do those. Our approval might, accomplish the same thing you're saying here, but we might word it differently.
Yeah, I just think you mobilize to start a project, you have everybody there ready to work, and then there's a discrepancy in the soils and you have to redesign stuff. How long does that halt things? Where if you do it before approval, you get it out of the way before things are bid, before things are mobilized. It's better for the town, it's better for the developer to do it in advance, so.
So that's a conversation we'll have with the applicant.
So, Tom, is this how you want it? Is it right?
Yeah, your recommendation with the
So you have it's recommended that CED condition
Yep, that sounds perfect.
approval and witnessing.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm just trying to work at the languages. Do you want to reread what you wanted to add so we can add it to look at it?
It is recommended that CED condition drainage test pits be witnessed by the review engineer, and they need to be performed in the proposed infiltration areas prior to any approval.
One more time.
It is recommended that CED condition drainage test pits be witnessed by the review engineer, and they need to be performed in the proposed infiltration areas prior to any approval.
Okay, we got it. Shane, before I sign it, we can make sure there's no Scribner's errors, I guess, too.
Sure thing.
8, there was no, typically we require retaining wall detail. And that should be not, it should retaining wall details need to be provided and an engineered, right? Any questions on 8? Comments? 9, this was brought up. I couldn't remember, and I should have looked at the plan. I didn't go back and look at the plan. I think Mr. Geller brought this up about, I think there was 10.5 feet there, right?
Yes.
Shannon and I can confirm that. I went off my notes from the meeting, but there's a 10.5 foot access way to another property that's not part of this. So I think that needs to be worked out. Any questions on this, Mr. Geller? I think you brought this up, right? Steve, you're muted. You've been talking to yourself.
Yeah, I did. I just don't think a trash truck can actually make that swing to get in to grab his dumpster and pick it up.
So did I word this like what you were trying to get across, or? It's located on a budding property. It's not part of the project. We need an easement. And we need to confirm that that swing works.
Right. Yeah, no, that's fine. You're right.
Any other board comments on this?
Should there be any language in regards to a cardboard dumpster be added?
Um,
Maybe
like
not
a,
cardboard
like a,
specifically, but recycled.
like a recycling dumpster?
Yes. Because I know on our personal, the recycled dumpster is filled a lot quicker than the trash dumpster is.
Okay. All right.
Oh, he's gonna need a bigger trash area.
Bigger area. I don't think the area is big enough to begin with, but. Anything else on that from anybody? 10, we talked about snow storage and snow management plan.
Right.
Any more discussion on that?
I have a general point or maybe requesting some information on this outside of this project, but also kind of including this for number 10. This is a topic that comes up in nearly every development with a parking lot. If we're talking checklists and must-haves, can we not have this as a must-have so we don't have to continually go back and forth on snow areas?
Well, we do require snow storage areas if we were reviewing this as a site plan. So it should be,
Okay.
it should have been considered. That's why we're
Okay.
asking for it to be. It
Yep.
should be a, not necessarily a checklist item, but it should be a standard thing on the plan, yes. Anything on more on number 10? Number 11, they just need to confirm that they meet dark sky regulations. Twelve, I mean, in the past, when we had Mr. Antonero as a review engineer, he wouldn't even he wouldn't even comment on a site plan until an 81X was done. So I think that we want an 81X done prior to any permitting, that's for sure. Combining all the parcels. So Shane, correct me if I'm wrong, an 81X removes lot lines, correct?
That is correct.
So essentially, this is a bunch of different parcels now to remove and just keep the perimeter line.
Yes.
13, we get questioned by the public a lot on this, and I just want to put it on the record that we have no control over water and sewer, what water and sewer does. We typically ask that a water impact form be submitted. I think they said they haven't, and we're not recommending approval or endorsing a utility. That's up to them to go meet with the utility connections for gas, electric, water, sewer, etc. Any comments on that?
More just a question. Mr. O'Brien, have we heard anything from Water and Sewer about this project since last week? I don't believe
Since
we had heard
last
anything
week,
at that
no.
point.
The only comments I have is that Conservation Commission did approve the project, but that's mostly through our office. And that Greg Tansey had reviewed this project stormwater.
I could have sworn that this project was coming before Conservation again on their next meeting.
I don't believe so. I think they dealt with it last week. I mean, they have, they had some concerns about the test pits too. But I think my understanding is that it was done. I mean, I can tell you that, we have, Apex is the successor to Environmental Partners, who is our third-party consultant on water and sewer issues. I mean, they are looking at all of these projects. We're looking at a number of, potential upgrades. So, I mean, I have no problem having you leaving this in here. I mean, clearly access to water and sewer is something that we're concerned with all our potential projects. So,
Yeah, of course. Okay, I was pretty sure it got hung up because of the test pit, so I don't think it's necessarily been approved yet. But if you're saying like it's heading that way, then that makes more sense. But I might just be wrong too. I kind of play those meetings on double speed just to get informed.
Anything else on 13? Does anybody want to add anything, take anything away, take the whole thing away? 14, this was brought up. I really don't know how to write this. Shane amended it a little bit. Site spots, I don't know what a site spot is. I don't, I don't know if this is in the building code. I don't know if this is something as a green community we want. I really have no knowledge of this, so.
Oh, yes, site spots are another thing. I think from what you previously presented, you had a number of spots.
I didn't write
Yeah,
that
I think-
down.
I
Somebody
think-
said it.
I was the one that brought it up because I didn't see any EV charging stations on the plan. I asked if they planned on doing it. And the applicant had stated that they would be EV charger ready to install should they put them in.
Yeah, so typically they would build like an electrical trench in a certain area, and then it just
Correct.
becomes electrical ready.
So why would you make it charger ready and then just not install the chargers? I don't understand.
A lot of places do that. It really comes down to the amount of vehicles you would see that are electrically based. So it really depends on, breakdown of vehicle types. If you see, 8 Teslas in your parking lot, then you're like, oh, well, maybe I should consider electrical, vehicles.
It also depends what type of charger they want to put in there, whether it's a trickle charge, a quick charge, or how much do they want to charge for the chargers? Is it free? Or, there's a lot more that goes into it than just putting in something and say, okay, plug it in.
Yeah, I have no experience with them, to be honest, but I mean, wouldn't it make sense to just recommend that they just have a couple of stations?
Yeah, we just leave it the way it is then.
I mean, I'm fine with that too, but just if it's going to be a point, then they should actually just.
I mean, I don't want to say 2 and 4 may be required. So, I mean, I think maybe just noting that they should consider that, and I think what we have for 14 is probably pretty good.
None are required, but consider, yeah.
I think what's gonna predicate the whole thing is, when their customers come and if they're driving EVs, then they're gonna demand that they be put in.
Right.
Because your car is virtually useless without it in an apartment building.
Okay.
Makes sense.
15, even though I wrote it, I wrote it from the comments that we received because I know this came up about snow and everything else. Shane, could you add the word written public safety comments? Just, I know you guys claim and not claim, but you guys say that fire was involved in the process, and I'm glad they were. I just would like something for the record from the fire department, the police department, that they've reviewed the plans and they have no issues, just for the record, because if there is an issue later with traffic or public safety, I don't want it to be a he said, she said thing. So if you could reach out to them and ask for written comments. And if they've already approved it verbally, it should be no issue, right? Anybody have comments on this? I know somebody else brought this up about the snow and public safety trying to get in there, and have they looked at it? So I don't know if this addresses the board's concern or not. So if somebody wants to weigh in on it.
I mean, it seems like a common sense measure to have, And I agree with your addition of written comments.
And I know it's not Mr. O'Brien's fault. I know he does send these over to all the boards and committees, and we do ask for written comments, but no, it's a big project. It could be, hopefully there's lots of traffic because there's successful businesses there. I just don't want it to be said, hey, the planning board never asked us. So, we never said that. It'd just be nice to have something in writing for the record that they reviewed it.
And just to comment, the project does have to meet fire code.
Right.
So they are gonna, regardless of if they provide written comments or not as part of the recommendation, the project has to abide by fire department recommendations and fire code.
Right, but at the same time, for the developer's benefit, I think it's much better to have something in writing so that when a set of permit plans comes in, they're not saying, hey, we want you to add this, we want you to add this, we want you to add this, which happens. So
Oh, it does.
I just think
Pre-construction meetings.
I just think it's much better to have like test pits and public safety and water and sewer out of the way before approvals, because once you start working, you want to keep going. So
I agree, Pat, because I mean, in the future, if there is an issue and something needs to be changed, we need that to look back on, and it's a lot better than just telling the public, trust me, bro, they said it was fine.
Right.
So
Um, this is something that came up 16 at the last meeting. We asked if the island was raised or painted. I believe it was painted, and we talked about having that painting maintained, whether it's every 6 months, yearly. I have no idea, but I just kind of went off of what we talked about last meeting. Does anybody have a comment on this?
Sorry.
No, that was my recommendation, and I believe that separation needs to be maintained because it's going to cause, especially if there's it would be different if there was a left-hand turn only or a left-hand turn from the center coming in there. That would you'd need it for that particular entrance, but I think it needs to be delineated just so people stay within their lines and they don't cross over. And it needs to be definitely needs to be kept up, maintained and painted yearly.
Okay. Continue. Anything else on that one? Anybody else?
this is probably a painfully stupid question, but it's just not a phrase I've come across before. Painted traffic separation. That's literally just referring to the yellow lines that tell you which lane is
Yeah,
which.
I guess my question, as we're talking about this again, with like the lack of a traffic engineer, Mr. O'Brien. Yeah. I mean, you just drive over painting if you want to take a left. If
Absolutely.
people are really considering right turn only, shouldn't that be like a raised island or? You know what I mean? Think about that. We're spending all this time talking about right turn only, and you have the flare to the right and the flare to the left, and it's just painted. You drive wherever you want. I mean,
Ideally, Pat, that's the way it should happen, but
it should be erased.
I think you need to take in, I mean, there's some additional information that you've requested with respect to trash trucks. We need to confirm from fire. We learned at 43R Central Square, fire department does not like raised aprons because it could be a problem for the trucks. So, I mean, I think what you have in there is fine, but I mean, snow removal, I mean, all those things become a little bit more problematic when you have a raised apron, and we don't, keep it in there. You can put it in there as a recommendation if you want, but I think there's more information that needs to be obtained before.
If we put any type of raised apron in there, he's gonna have to make it a wider entrance and exit.
Right.
So I don't know if you want to change it to a concrete rumble strip that people will still drive over, or sometimes it's a deterrent that they do that. I think it still all falls back on the pending the traffic study or knowledge that we have, whether it's even going to be a right turn or not.
right.
Yeah, and I mean, and for this project and other projects, this is where comments from public safety and other departments are beneficial, and we don't get those, so it's frustrating. So I'm fine with either. If you guys want to consider a raised island there, or if you want to just leave it the way it is, I'm fine with either. Just Mr. Pratty, I know this is something that you brought up, whether it was raised or not. How do you feel about it?
I considered adding the language of raised, but I know when people, as long as it's minimally raised, it can't be something that you can't drive over, but it makes it difficult to drive over. Because when a snowplow enters and exits that lot to plow, it's going to be a problem for that particular truck. And that's, we want to make sure those areas are clean of snow, and a raised bed will hinder that. So that's why when they recommended painting, and when I saw it on the plan that it was painted, that as long as it is kept, I know people drive over it. I know the public is the public. They're going to do what they do. But at least during snow incidents, that it's not going to cause any undue problems for the snowplows, because it's already a problem in that lot for snowplows.
So why don't we just say consider a raised option as an alternative to paint?
Okay.
And again, it's like we're making traffic pattern decisions without any information, so that's,
Make any sense?
I mean, that'll happen with a 2-week process, I suppose. So,
what's that?
so that'll happen with a 2-week process, I suppose. Just got to do the best we can with it.
All right, so it's recommended that parallel parking spots in the front of the project on Route 18 Broad Street should be conditioned to no overnight parking and no parking between the hours of. And those are just numbers that I threw in there. I don't know if we want, basically it's, I guess, first of all, do we allow overnight parking in that area now? Is it 2-hour parking or what is it? Do we know?
I
don't
would
know.
really say it comes down to enforcement. I think all parking that way is essentially timed, so
I mean, the applicant has no control over street parking.
It's a recommendation for the town.
Yeah, I mean, they can't. I mean, I think the recommendation is good, but it doesn't fall on the applicant.
Yeah,
Alright.
I have to agree with Mr. Rulli. This is just outside of their control completely.
Well, it's recommended that,
I mean, we can't recommend the applicant to enforce traffic laws that are the.
well, we could say it's recommended that the town work to work to,
Put signage up.
put signage up for no overnight parking and no hours between, and then come up with some hours based on, traffic data. Something like that. I know they can't control the hours of street parking and stuff like that.
I mean,
But I think it is a good
I'm
recommendation.
fine with it being in there, but yeah, I don't know how much good it'll do.
I don't think it's gonna do much of anything. It's a public street. Anybody can park there. I mean.
Right.
We're not
Well,
making,
there's work being done on the street too, though. I mean, they're gonna
we're
have
not
to,
making it a loading zone, right? It's not zoned as a loading zone. We're not painting the curbing and saying loading zone on it, so.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Mr. Keller on that one.
all right, any other comments?
I actually just thought that allowing a period of time, and deliveries are typically in the morning for big, tractor trailers, for food, etc. And just a period of time where it would be open for that person, so he doesn't have to circle the block 40 times waiting for someone to leave. That was my only consideration.
Yeah.
Maybe the applicant or the store owner could work with the delivery people to say that I will be there between 5 and 6 for your delivery on Mondays. I don't know how it's going to work, but it's probably going to be a problem. One car in that area with a tractor trailer is going to cause a problem.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, I understand that.
Especially if they're like restaurant types where they have frequent delivery.
Exactly.
So I think the comment's a good one, whether they can do it or not. It
Right.
at least gives the CED staff something to think about.
Well,
How
I mean,
they-
I think it gives us an opportunity. I mean, I think, this is a conversation with DPW and the police on how they have the jurisdiction over this.
Sure.
Right,
this is-
I mean, I see the tractor trailer all the time, park in front of Crispy's, takes up the whole front.
I mean, it happens everywhere. I mean, I lived in Newport. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
yeah,
But
there
I
are.
mean, I agree that it would be exacerbating an already bad situation if we had tractor trailers showing up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, I think there's consideration. I think Crispy's is a good example, as well as Greyhound Tavern, in terms of some local examples of restaurants in terms of loading food.
Right, I
how
mean,
they
if they
handle
just
it.
stop, if they just stop in the street, traffic's already backed up to the train tracks. So
Stuff on the street.
Mr. Pratt, are you good with that? Number 17, the way it is, we'll leave it there.
Yes.
I mean, would we be maybe better off just changing the note in general to say something along the lines of facilitate offloading spaces for the site without like a time thing or, dictating the signage? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't
how
have
to
the
phrase
CED
that.
zoning in front of me, but they don't have to have, I think it says if they can't get a loading space on site, then I don't know what the language is in there, but it does say something that they don't have to have it on site, but
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with either way, but I think we just move on. It's probably not a big deal.
And I just, I added this. This is one of my comments again. I just put that, we saw the plans, but we assume that's the plan set that's going to be approved or modified based on these recommendations to be approved. There were a lot of things represented, like sidewalks are going to be done from point A to point B, that streetscape was going to be done, like new vertical granite curbing was going to be put in. So, I mean, I'm assuming because we're not doing the decision letter and we're not looking at the final plan set, that all those things are going to be confirmed by CED staff, that everything that was represented in that last meeting and everything that we were shown is going to be carried out. So I just think 19, we should add, Shane, that the final approval by the CED shall be forwarded to the planning board, just so we know what happened and what was adopted and what wasn't.
Yeah, I think it's
If
just a
everybody's
smart,
okay with that.
yeah, I think it's just a smart thing to put in.
Yeah,
Right.
as well as this
No reason not to.
this document will be forwarded to the town clerk's office and made part of the record, as well as the final decision document as well.
So I have one more question and maybe one more recommendation. And this is from the last one that came before us for that same property. Where they're gonna be expanding the sidewalks, putting in new curbing. They're gonna be cutting into Route 18. How many connections in the street on Route 18 are they gonna be cutting into for water, sewer, gas? And then, when you start patching the roads and paving, I mean, it just makes it worse. Should we recommend that they, from trench to trench, just patch the whole area?
I think in the last approval, now that you bring it up, I think the last approval we had from beginning of frontage to end of frontage was repaved. Because again, you're right, you're gonna be doing all that curbing work. You're gonna have a 1 foot patch along all that granite curbing work. You're gonna have a curb cut. You're gonna have
Right.
you're gonna have water, probably 3 water lines coming in, 4 water lines coming in, 2, 3, 4 sewer lines coming in. You're gonna have the road's gonna be a disaster on that. I would almost say, Steve, that's a good point that you pave it, that it gets repaved per, town specs from one end of the frontage to the other end.
I mean, that's something we probably should look at overall in our zoning. When I was in Rhode Island, I mean, we had something similar that if the road had been repaved within X period of time, you had to exceed what your project site was, but I think it's a legitimate concern for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point. I mean, you're gonna have all these, there's gonna be a ton of cuts in the road. It's gonna be a mess.
Right.
But at the same time, there could be a project across the street, and this project shouldn't have to bear that whole cost. Maybe they do it to the center line if they only go to the center line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe if they don't go beyond the center line, they just have to repave the. So I mean, Shane, just when you guys are working on Bob, when you're working on this, I think Steve's point is a great one. I'm glad we brought it up, but that should be repaved.
No disagreement there.
Okay, anything else, guys?
All right, so Mr. Chair, I wrote up as number 20 that utility cuts shall be paved, not patched per town specifications along the frontage of the project layout.
Yeah, and I just say, area or center line, a full. I think it should be. Maybe you guys, before you do the final approval, can look at how many curb cuts are going to be. Do they go across the whole street? How many feet of front? What is there, about 300 feet of frontage there? Maybe two something. Maybe they repave the whole thing. Curb to curb, or if there's going to be a project across the street, just do their half. Anything else, guys?
No, just probably another dumb question on my end. would utility cuts ever exceed like the frontage of the property? If that question makes any sense.
It obviously depends on where the pipe in the street is.
Right. That's what I was thinking. So we might want to change that,
It could be on the opposite side of the road. We don't know.
which wouldn't be their frontage. So I
Well,
don't
it
know
would be
if that
their
would
frontage, it would
phrase
just
it.
be on the other side of the street, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you get the point. We don't want a bunch of patches. We want one big area done, right?
yeah, I would say just typically, just based on this area of town, you're not going to see a lot of situations where they're going to have to go across the street. You're tying into either water, sewer, um, along the frontage of the roadway.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I'm just not familiar with that kind of work.
So Tom, going back to 17 real quick, I put hours of in parentheses because I didn't know, we should probably remove those parentheses, right, Shane? Because that was really just to remind me to have a discussion on it.
Okay.
All right.
But I mean, do we want to put hours there or just,
I mean, I don't think you can because, I mean, the applicant has no jurisdiction over it. I
Right.
mean, I mean, you can make that recommendation, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to either be police or DPW or a combination that are going to decide what they want that to be.
I agree with you 100%. And yes, we would have to petition the town to do that.
I mean, I would say just trying to go for something broader, about just like facilitating deliveries might be more suited to the purpose. But I really can't think of a good wording for that.
Right.
But again, we have zero, the applicant has zero control over what happens.
Oh
in-
no, I agree with you.
Right.
100%.
I agree with that.
I mean, we don't even know what type of businesses are going in there, what type of deliveries are gonna be getting, who knows right now, so. I mean, like you said, I mean, it's a recommendation, it'll be left in there, but, and I think that's about.
yeah, I mean, I think 17, I think
That's about
everything
as far as
else,
it's gonna go.
everything else on them.
I guess like the best I could think of is that the developer work with the town to
I don't think it hurts to keep
Facilitate
it in
deliveries or
because
something like
it makes us have this conversation. I mean, you know, as we're gonna see more development, it's a conversation we need to have. So I just don't want it to be the obligation of the applicant who has no control over it. But I think keeping it in here forces us to have that conversation at a higher level, you know, with the town administration and public safety.
in that case that's perfect for me then. I mean,
Right. Anything else you want to add? It's 20, a nice round number.
That is a good one.
I'll come in and sign it tomorrow, Shane, if.
I just want to say that, you know, I know that this has been somewhat of a laborious process, but Shane and I appreciate the thought and the comments that have come from the members, the patience of the applicant. I mean, this is our first project coming in under the form-based code. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a great project. It's going to be the impetus for other things to happen. And it's been a learning experience. So, I mean, I think, you know, there's a lot of good that has come out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that turnaround time, I know there have been comments that this has been permitting for 18 months or 12 months or whatever, and you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, this board turned it around in a week, so it's the first time we've had it before us and first time we've seen it, so I thank everybody for being flexible and having a special meeting, so. Do we want to vote on this, guys? Does anybody want to make a motion to recommend the project or not recommend the project with conditions? Unless there's more to talk about.
I'll make a motion to recommend the project with these added recommendations to the CED office.
A motion to recommend with the discussed conditions by Mr. Geller, second,
Second.
by Mr. Pratty. Any discussion by anyone? So I'll take the roll. Mr. McDonald,
abstain.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Praddy,
Yes.
Mr. Haley,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So we'll do an abstention is a no, right, Shane? So do four, I think it should be 4-1.
Yeah,
Yep.
an abstention is a no.
All right, well, thank you, everybody, and thank you to the developer for the time and the plans, and hopefully it's a great project, so.
Thank you very much for your input. All well taken.
You need a motion to adjourn if that's what you're gonna do.
Well, we have other stuff on the agenda, Mr. Rowley, so. Unless Mr. Bryan doesn't want to do it.
I'll be quick.
So item 3, we have other business, Mr. O'Brien, board items to June 4th.
Yep, we got a meeting next Wednesday. Thanks for making the time for the special meeting. I'll get the agenda to y'all tomorrow. 43R. And we don't have 1010 Elm, so I think it's just 43R unless I'm mistaken something.
Where are we with the 55 plus project? Is that?
Oh,
continue?
that too, the preliminary review. That's been forwarded around. We got some public comment that I forwarded to the board. But I'm still waiting on department comments.
And I'll have to read the zoning. I mean, do we act on the preliminary review or is it just more like?
No, it's more just a technical review process.
Okay. So the 43R and then that project, correct?
That's correct. I don't have any A&Rs at this time. But I did get some projects that come to the next couple of meetings that we can discuss then. So.
Yeah, I know I picked up one of those projects today and not to discuss the project, obviously, but again, it's a subdivision that's utilizing sewer, and ever since I've been on the board, new subdivisions haven't been allowed to have sewer. So, I mean, other than like projects like this or projects like the 55 plus, but so that changes our whole review, whether or not site, grading and everything else. So anything we can do to get an opinion from water and sewer ASAP on the sewer connection, because we're wasting everybody's time if there's no possibility of
Well,
sewer.
I would not want anyone's time wasted, but I did provide I forwarded the plans out to everyone as well as I do for every project, so.
Okay, and I'll follow up as well with them and just send an email just saying, can we please get a recommendation? It's frustrating to try to run meetings without meaningful recommendations, so.
Okay,
Anything else, Shane?
nope.
Just a quick reminder to the board, I will not be here on the 4th.
June. All right, anything else, Shane? It's basically boards, committees reports, planners report items, so are you all set?
Yeah, all good on my end.
Okay, so item 4, motion to adjourn, so 63 minutes, not 30 minutes like I hoped, but all good.
That's not bad.
Go back to CPC now.
I am. Hopefully it's over. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Who was that? I'm sorry.
Tie between Tom and Ted.
So Tom made the motion, Ted made the second. That sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, so I'll take the roll. Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Geller.
Said yes.
You already asked me, and I said yes.
You.
Who did I miss?
You.
Well,
You missed
Mr.
Tom.
McDonald, I'm sorry, Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
No, you missed Tom.
So we got about 6 yes
All right,
votes.
hold on, I'm trying to go without my list. I get my list here. All right, I'll take the roll call. Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Praddy,
Yes.
Mr. Haley,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
That's
you.
probably the most
Thanks,
yes
fellas.
votes to adjourn a meeting in planning history.
Let the record show it's only 5.